with Tantran at Accelerate Kid. So we do tech education for youth. So we do K through 8 essentially, where we teach coding, robotics, that kind of stuff. So we're kind of doing a sort of introduction to our program and a sort of training manual kind of thing for our book. That's the plan.
Yeah, cool. So Nick's book's a little bit different because it's kind of technical, but they want to include stories. And Nick, hold on a second. I want to grab something.
Okay.
Welcome, Nick.
Hi.
So if you guys don't know, I'm a nerdy person. I have an actuarial math degree. My first job was at Anderson Consulting, where I coded in COBOL, which is pretty like telltale of how old I am that we coded in COBOL. Like there was no GUI interface. Having drop-down boxes, like when they got drop-down boxes and they got Visual Basic, oh my gosh, everybody started freaking out that we could do drop-down boxes so easy. And I had mentioned these books, Nick, to Chan.
Oh.
Have you ever seen these books? So yes, I'm the Asian mom who makes my kids do homework. And this is what they do in the summer. Oh. And there's all sorts of them at different levels of math. So it starts in like, I don't know, there's like algebra ones and trig ones and calculus ones. And my sister, her son said, it was really interesting. He loved getting through it, but he didn't always do the exercises because he wanted to know what was happening in the story next. So in some ways it was really great and others not. But I think there are a lot of kids who love to learn this way. So it would be like a story and he would see a shadow and what is, you know, he's this tall, the shadow is this tall. What is the third length of the triangle? So it was
awesome
applications and it's a story throughout. And maybe next time I see Tan, I'll let him borrow these, but he has to give them back.
Yeah, I'll have to look into those. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that you can see what that's like, so that you can kind of meld the technical with something that's fun so that it's interesting for them to read. So
something I did wanted to bring up just before we got started is I actually don't have access to the main modules. I had the the pre-session one. I was able to go through that, but I don't have access to the rest of them.
Oh, that is my fault because I was gone and I was just telling Phil because he's not getting my emails. Let me write that down, that I apparently need more staff. So I will give you that access, Nick, today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, cool. All right, so let's see. Crystal is here, and Sarah's here, and Ibeth, and Joy, and Phil, and Nick. All right, cool. Awesome. So a couple things that I want to tell you guys. Hold on, I had a list. Okay. Oh, and Chica's not here. Bummer. Okay, so I need to make sure today, and don't you guys let me forget, that Chica's doing a podcast, and I wanted to share some insights on how to get emails and gather emails from being on podcasts while you're writing your book. And then Jay is doing a summit, and she wanted some information on some tech on that. She might join a little bit later, but I want to share that. Both of those things are some of like more advanced techniques that if you're there, take the information and use it. If you're not, don't be overwhelmed and feel like you have something that you have to catch up on, because it's optional. It's not mandatory in order to write your book and get it to bestseller. Okay. So here's one thing I want to let everybody know, like we're all at different levels. Everybody here. Oh, Chica. Yay. I was just talking about you. I was just talking about you. We're going to get to something about your podcast, being on your podcast a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
How to leverage that. So I want to make sure that I definitely talked about that and addressed that so that you can take advantage of it.
Lovely. Thank you.
So what I was saying is that everybody's at different levels, and you'll probably see some people that like are going ahead in the modules or anything and stuff like that. And it just hit me this week that sometimes we end up feeling like we're behind. And I want to make sure everybody knows that the pace that we're going now, you will get your book done. And it might feel a little slow to some, but the reason why is because it's so important to get this prep part of writing your book right. Because you don't want to get through part of the book and then be like, oh crap, and then have to go back and redo certain parts. So that's why we're spending the time to do the prep module in 1 week instead of doing prep and let's set up and let's do this like all at once, because I want to give you enough brain space so that it can actually like focus and it can actually think. Because I personally feel like there are, when we get to doing, there are so many things that are in our head that we end up getting what I call word constipation, where you're trying to get something out and it's just not coming out. And I can say, like, I haven't dared said word constipation yet, I don't think, in public, but I can do that here. But it is like you feel like you need to get it out and it's just not coming. And why isn't it coming? And I think part of that is just leaving space. And I know that we talked about that a little bit before as well. I want to mention that everybody here is brilliant in their own way, totally brilliant and a genius in their own way. And I have my way of writing or my way of doing things. And my 94 other authors have their ways of doing things that may mesh with mine and may not. So if you have insights for other members or added, tips or whatever, I'm totally open to you guys saying, well, you know what, when I sat down to write such and such, guess what happened? And I realized that, because I really want this to be not just a group for you guys to come and listen to me talk, because that's not really about what it is. It's about like working together, being a community and masterminding in this community so that you guys can get the books out that should be already out in the world doing the work that it needs to be doing. Right? Because even I do. We put off things that we should be doing. All right. Thanks, Nick, for putting it in the chat. Such a brilliant thing to put it in the chat. Thank you so much. Okay. So let's jump into module 1. And let me share the screen. There we go. You guys see it? Yes? Okay, I muted you all, so now you can't talk to me. All right, awesome. Let's go with this. It's so funny because I had to put my headsets in today because it's a snow day. So my kids are home. And if you notice, my office is like open there. And my husband is working from home because of the snow. And so he's overtaken the basement. And my son has gotten to watching this Japanese cartoon with English subtitles. It cracks me to hear them speaking because I don't speak Japanese. So he's like got this thing and the theme song is in Japanese and everything. I'm like, what are you doing? He's watching this thing. So anyways, that's why I have my headset in, because I didn't want you to have to listen to the theme song of the cartoons as we went on. Okay, so this module is one of the most important modules. This is all about the setup. We're going to talk about the timeline and all of that. So I think we've already talked about, being pushed and, come up against doubts and, put those things in the Facebook group. Let us support you. We want the celebrations, and we also want, where are you struggling at, so that we can support and help you. Maybe you put something out about your book and it got crickets for some reason. Maybe it was because, like me, sometimes I set it to the privacy's off and nobody sees it. Or, maybe you put it out at some weird time of day and nobody saw it. And, we can go in there and make comments on it and start pushing it out for you. So let us do those things so that we can be fully supportive of all the things that you're doing. Okay. And there's also going to be strategies. Like I said, later today, we're going to be talking about some things for Chica and for Jay, and you may not be familiar with it. It may not be for you right at this moment. It may be okay, that's good. Let me tuck it away and I will do it later. There are some things that, yes, are mandatory, and then there are some things that are not, and I'll make sure that I let you know what those things are. All right. So setting your intentions. So some of these are repetitive of the things in the prep module. There are a few questions that are the same, partially because I just want you to write it again. Because I find that when you write things out, it does something. versus typing it in. Like, I'm the person who prints things out and writes it out by hand. And there's something about writing it on paper and seeing it on paper that way that you actually retain more, and it gets into that cellular level a little bit more. So why do you want to write a best-selling book? Why is it important to you? And what is the deadline for your book? Let's stop here for a second. And let me unmute. Unmute. Okay, it's not unmuting. Unmute. All right, I don't know what I did, but you all are not unmuted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I was able to unmute myself.
Okay, I would love to hear from each of you that's here right now what the deadline is. What is the launch date that you're targeting for your book? Let's share that. That's also important because, like, some of you might have books that are in similar categories and you don't want to launch on the same exact day because you don't want to compete with each other. So somebody unmute themselves and go first.
Okay, I don't mind going first.
Okay.
Yeah, so before I joined the program, I said that I'd given myself basically a whole year. Since joining the program, I realized I can do it a lot quicker.
Uh-huh.
So as soon as possible. I mean, there's no rush, but
yeah.
I would say beginning of the summer, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Beginning of July
July the what?
1st.
The 1st. Okay.
They picked out of my head just right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if July the 1st is a date in America. That sounds like a date that you guys celebrate. Is that correct? No.
July 4th is. Mm-hmm.
July 4th. Okay.
Yep.
July 1st it is then.
Okay.
Is this first?
I want to take advantage of, the offer that you had, which is to, the one that you've said, if we do it in 6 months, to give us the incentive.
Yep.
So that's why I thought, like, instead of giving myself a whole year and putting off, we've got the modules to follow. There isn't any reason why I can't get that out within that 6 month period. It's more of a challenge to me, but it's so doable.
Okay. Perfect. Crystal, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I'm looking at 3 months.
Okay.
3 months is my target date.
Okay. So May something?
May, let's go June. June 1st. Hopefully. Raise my hand.
Okay. June 1st?
That's June 1st.
Awesome. Phil?
I have a very specific date, April 13th.
Yep.
Oh.
I remember that. You want to share with us that don't know why?
So a couple things. One, most importantly, is that numerology number 2, it's a powerful number when it comes to doing these types of things based on the research that I did. And then the other is that it's the anniversary of the reception that Michael and I had when we got married.
Awesome. Nick, do you want to share?
Sure. The first date that came to mind would be May 18th, just because that's my birthday, but also because the way that our company works is kind of seasonal with the school schedule. So I think that when we're transitioning from our school schedule to our summer schedule, that would be a good time to release it.
Okay, perfect. My birthday's May the 15th. So, yeah. Okay, Sarah?
I don't have a date.
Okay.
I can't. Okay, I don't even have a topic for my book. I'll just be blunt. So, I don't know. Like, I put up a post yesterday. I think Phil might have commented on it because you shared your date with me.
Yes.
I also like to look into like numerology and moon cycles and that sort of stuff. And just like nothing was standing out to me. And usually like a number will just pop and I'm like, that's a pretty number. And I go with it. I don't know. I'm not getting anything. And I don't know. I really wanted to do like soon, like April, beginning of May at the latest.
Mm-hmm.
Someone mentioned the full moon because of manifestation properties, but I'm almost always cranky on a full moon, and I don't know that that's a good idea. I'm gonna be honest.
I saw you say that. I'm like, oh, I love her. She's gonna tell you. She's grouchy.
So I was actually more like, I'm not sure, and I don't know how much you really want to spend time with this on the call, but I felt like more like I wanted to be in feminine energy when it actually launched, so that it was more of a like, okay, this is done, it's completed, and I'm not like freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the full moon is masculine energy. So I was thinking more along the lines of like the first quarter moon or something like that.
Okay.
Can I have like 24 hours and I'll post it in the group or something?
I feel like you're giving yourself some self-inflicted penalty or something. I think I'm feeling for you that once you figure out your topic, you're going to figure out the date, because with you, it has to align with the topic. So let's work on your topic at the end of the call when we do questions.
Okay. And I do have some like energy work scheduled next Monday to kind of help move through some mindset stuff that has come up since I started the program. So I do feel like things will fall into place, but I haven't committed to a date yet.
Okay. All right. Ibeth?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes. So I'm just playing here with numbers as well. Mainly because I thought of the 13th of September, but then I realized on the 13th of August. And for some reason I didn't want to. Right. So I'm going with, I want to do it before my birthday party on the 31st of June, because I can add that as part of my celebration. So I can to celebrate with me.
Yeah.
So I just decided right now it's going to be on the oh crap. I think it's the 22nd or the 23rd of May.
Okay. May.
24, hold on. 5. So it has to be on a specific moon, because it's the moon I was born in, is the moon where a lot of awesome things happen for me. So I'm going with that.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I'll confirm after at the end. I don't want to waste time. But it's on the 22nd or the 23rd.
Okay. Of May.
Of May, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Let's see who's next. Michael Wynn.
But I have to do May 23rd. I learned from years from Alex Mendoza. I did not do it this year, but Alex Mendoza taught if you do any release, celebrate that day. Even if you write 4 books throughout the year, you have to release one on your birthday. May 23rd. I did not get to do my first book on that day.
Yeah.
Of all of the chaos, as you know, Vickie.
Mm-hmm.
So I have chosen May 23rd, and I am determined to do that day.
Okay, so you and Ibeth have to get together and make sure that your topics are not the same.
Yes.
And your categories are not the same.
Yes.
Okay, because we're all going to buy your book, but then you don't want to compete with each other.
Yes.
Okay, because there can only be one number one.
Yes. That's
There's never a tie. I've never seen a tie. You know? All right, cool. Thank you for sharing. Nick already went. Crystal went. Joy. Got the joy. I can't unmute you. Okay, there you go. Joy, what's your date?
Okay, so I don't know, because I've been going through the modules. I'm only up to module 5. So did you just lock the rest of them? And I can't get to the rest of them because you don't want us to go too fast.
Well, the way that it works is people who have payment plans, they unlock each week as the payment plan goes on.
I paid in full.
So you'll get more. Oh, that's weird. Then they should not be locked. They should not be locked at all. So I'll check on that. The pay in fulls have total access.
Yeah,
But
so
either way, like you don't need to be at module 5, but it's
well,
okay
I'm saying
to
that's the
rush.
last one. I couldn't get to module 6, and so I
Yeah.
wanted to at least go through everything since the book was finished.
Mhm,
And I think
mhm.
maybe like another page, but I'm going through everything, and I'm still happy with what I have.
Mhm.
So I wanted to finish the modules before, but hopefully if there isn't anything major that I need to include or do something different. And I was hoping maybe springish. So what's that? May first day of spring, March 20th, I think this year.
20th?
Just if I can get through the rest of the modules by then. So
Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, Jay jumped on and then she jumped off. Or is she still here somewhere? Oh, there she is. Okay, did everybody go? Did I miss anybody? All right, cool. So, Jay, we talked about you earlier, and we will get to your question after we get done going through this module, if you don't mind. Jay already wrote her book last summer, but some of those people wanted to jump on some of our calls, so I thought it would be beneficial for you guys. Okay, so great. Deadline for your best-selling book. Did you guys figure out where you write and when you write best? I'm just going to assume that you did. We're going to create a schedule. We're going to talk about that today. And here's the thing, let go of the idea that writing has to be long and hard. I think you guys already have figured that out based on some of you guys saying, oh, I thought I was going to take a year, but now I realize that it doesn't have to take that long. I think a lot of times when we feel like something is a big thing, we think it's supposed to take long, or if we work really long and hard, then we're more worthy of the success. And that's not necessarily true. I wrote that one book, my last book, in 4 days and launched it to bestseller, and it's actually my favorite book. And I got feedback from some people. They're like, oh, this one's the best one. So I'm glad they agreed. All right, so about your best-selling book, this organizing your thoughts about the message you want to convey. This is super important because the message you want to convey is a thing you want the reader to walk away with. That's also how it connects to the product that you're going to sell. And that's the next one. How does that tie back to your main business? What is it that you are selling? And if you don't have like an online program or group coaching or whatever, it can tie back to a one-on-one coaching package. It can tie back to a 90-minute intensive. It doesn't have to be something that you have to run out and go make if you don't have it. And that's something that I always get a question about too, is after I publish my book, can I go back and change it if I need to? And the answer is yes. Now, you don't want to keep doing that, but yes, let's say 6 months from now, you've done your book and you have some sort of product, online course or something that you want to use the book for, you can definitely go back and add some things. The caveat is that if you change more than 10% of your book, then Amazon considers that a new book. So just keep that in mind. All right. Who's your ideal client reader? That is the same person as your ideal client if you're going to turn them into a client, right? What is their struggle? We talked about this a little bit last time, so I'm not going to go through that again. How can you solve their problem? And how is your solution different? And this is where it's really important, where, you know, we all have, even I do, right, there's other book coaches, there are other mindset coaches, there are probably other habit coaches, Michael, you know, and how is what you're sharing different? It could just be your perspective on it. It could be your story. It could be your personality. It could be, you know, like, for example, we were talking about this funny at GLP this past weekend, that the perceptions of Asians is sometimes that Asian women are submissive, docile, and quiet. And well, I am not. The best way to get me to go do something is tell me to not do it. So I'm not that way. How is your solution different than other people in the world? And there are many different ways to get to bestseller even. There are different coaches who teach a different way. And sometimes I look at stuff and I'm like, that's not how you do it, because I have my process and they have theirs. All right. How do you want the reader to be changed by your best-selling book? How are you going to transform their life? and then seating. There's more of that in Module 4. It's important to use that in turning your readers into those clients. And this is where you're going to drop hints, refer to your signature programs, but not in a sleazy, slimy, icky way. Because there have been some people that I've talked to, they're like, oh, I don't want to add any of that in my book because I don't want to come across as that sleazy car salesman. And if that's what is in your book, then yes, you're going to end up, you know, sounding and feeling like a sleazy car salesman. But when you do it right, it actually just flows right into the book. It's not a matter of, and maybe this is a good way to think about seating, is you don't want when the person's reading the book for them to stop. It's like a train is going and it's going through a station and it's just passing through and picking up passengers, right? And that's what seating does. When you do the slimy thing, it's like that train has made a complete stop and they've got to do some sort of, I don't know, maintenance or something, right? They've been delayed and the journey can't go on until they do this thing, but it's an interruption to the flow, to the story, to the process of the book. When you do seating correctly, you're on this, they've got this train ride that is continuously going. It's just they have stops that they're picking up people, but we're just going to keep going on. Does that make sense? Okay. So think about, as you're writing case studies, testimonials, you know, name dropping. And this for me is a place where sometimes I write the meat of the chapter and I write all the learnings that I want to teach, or all the teaching or the points that I want to teach. And then I just do that part and I let that sit with me. And throughout the day, I put it back here so that I can get those divine inspirations and those downloads that are like, oh, you know what? Remember that conversation with so-and-so? Or remember when so-and-so was having this issue? And they seem to just come to me again when I am allowing the space for that to come. And I hope I don't sound too woo, although it is woo. I think you guys get it. What I'm saying is do the process part that's really easy to put down on paper. And then the examples with the seating and stuff like that will just come to you as you're writing it. And if it doesn't come to you for that chapter, trust me, it will come to you by the end of the book. If you try to force it, you'll end up with that constipation again. Just let it come to you, all right? While you're writing your book, you might want to think of colors you like for your cover, text and graphics, and whether or not you're going to use your photo on your cover. You know, certain fonts have a certain feel to them. You know, there are some fonts that are definitely more girly, and depending on your topic, you may or may not want that font. As far as your photo, I don't remember if we talked about this or not. Some people think that unless you're super famous, you don't need to put your photo on the book because you're not identifiable. I've kind of done it both ways. I don't really necessarily think that you have to be famous to have your photo on the cover, but it depends on what feeling you're trying to evoke, whether or not you're looking right at them or whether you're going to look off, right? So just decide on those feelings, because it's the feelings that are going to cause people to gravitate towards your book, and your cover is one of the best selling points. So if you want to take a trip to the library or bookstore or whatever, I love doing that, and then just taking pictures, especially if you're going to get a graphics designer later. If you have examples of what you like, then they can use those as well, right? All right, important writing tips. Now, parts of these are from that book on writing well. Now, remember that a high percentage of books, 80%, are sold by referral. So somebody loving their book and telling their friend, or buying a book for a friend, or saying, you know, I read this and I thought of you. So the outside of the book, the cover, is going to get them to want to buy the book, right? The inside and all the meaty stuff and all the stories, because you know they aren't going to be sharing so much the points that you're making as much as the stories that support those points. Does that make sense? So make sure that what you're putting inside the book is something that somebody's going to remember and go, oh my gosh, I got to tell my girlfriend that, or I need to tell this person at work about this, right? But make sure that the everyday reader can understand what you're saying. I know in some industries, probably like Nick's, where he's doing computer science and stuff, there might be some jargon. I know with Sarah, she's really into human design. So if you do need to use jargon, make sure that you define that for them in really elementary, simple terms so that you can keep going on, right? It's not that you shouldn't use jargon ever, but you're going to want to define those things, okay? So sadly, one of the things, and we'll get to this, like, be clear, say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't run off on tangent. Ask yourself if it's really relevant. And I know sometimes we can get really focused with how many words did I write today? How many words is this whole entire book? And when we go back and edit, one of the things that is really important is cutting out things that we don't need to say. So sadly, the process of editing is actually going to probably nix a portion of those words that you really want to have. Don't be so concerned with the number of words as you are by being clear in what you say, right? Because we can always figure out ways to make the book look and feel like with the number of pages in it, however you want it to be. We just want to make sure that what you're saying is relevant and adds to your point. You know, be clear, be brief. Most things can be cut by that 50%. And one of my big peeves, and I do it sometimes, but one of my big peeves is don't announce what you're about to do or what you feel. Just show it to them. Tell them about it without saying, I think you're going to love this, or the story that I'm about to share is really inspiring. Or even sometimes you may or may not, it depends on the situation, you may not want to flat tell them what you learned from that situation. You may want to just show them what you learned from that situation and let them make their own conclusion off of it. And I think one great example is parables, right? I'm going to assume you all know what a parable is. Yes? Okay. Parables are great because they share something with a lesson, right, that has meaning without telling you what it is that they're actually sharing, right? It's up to you to deduce what you're supposed to learn from it. So allow that in your book, and allow that it's okay that sometimes some people might make slightly different interpretations of the story that you shared. I'm a control freak, and sometimes I need to make sure that this is what I mean, this is what you need to take out of it, this is what you're supposed to do next. And sometimes some people, depending where they are, may take things a different way, and they can learn other things from what you're saying. All right? And that's not to say that you don't want them to walk away with certain things you do, but just give them the room to make some interpretations, okay? Be simple. I already talked about, jargon. You don't need to use flowery language. We all know you're brilliant. And I think actually what's funny is sometimes when we think about writing, we get into this like school mode, and I'm writing a thesis mode, and let me sound smart mode. And it actually is so much easier and so much more refreshing for somebody to be like, oh, finally somebody who speaks at my speed and I can understand. So allow that for your book as well, right? And be human. This is one of the biggest things that I'm always talking about is be vulnerable, fall on your face, share with them those thoughts that were going through your head. And that's another way to show them rather than tell them. It's like, I could say I was nervous, or I could say I was scared, or I could say I was embarrassed. But the difference would be the thoughts that are going through your head. I was thinking, oh my gosh, why did I do that again? I know better than to, if you're embarrassed, right? And that's where people connect, because they've said all of those same things. There are so many things in the human existence and the human experience that we all have some sort of experience with, that it makes it so much more relatable, right? Okay. So remember your style is who you are and how you talk, because you don't want to go to like a networking event and then somebody meet you and then be like, it doesn't even sound like himself, right? And I'm going to use Michael because his book is already done. He's on the second book. When I read his book and his stories about his grandma, and I see him in person, the two totally meshed together. How he talks, his personality, the charisma that he has, the poise, like all of those things, they all fit together with how he sounds in his book. he's warm, he's compassionate, you know? So you want to make sure people meeting you are going to think you're the same person. And that's also why most of the time I don't really like when people want to ghostwrite, because they don't sound like themselves. Okay? And don't worry about grammar. Just keep writing, and don't edit while you're writing, because you'll get round and round in chapter 1. All right? A little extra tip, humor is always welcome. Use active verbs. I have a tendency to have a passive voice. I think we all do. Andrea, the editor that I recommend a lot, she's really good at making sure those things are active. So make sure, because it's more fun to see somebody in action and watch their story in action rather than in passive mode, right? Okay. And just think of things. If you're thinking, well, how do I show, instead of just telling something, think of the visual, like what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're hearing, what you're touching. Think of all the senses, what you might be smelling. Because, like, you know, when your new book comes to you and you get it out of that box, you know, that cardboard Amazon box that your books come in, it smells like something. And when you leaf through your pages and you smell the new page and new ink smell, there's a smell to that. And we tend to not describe those things. And that's what's going to make your book different and their experience with you different, is when you share those things. Okay? All right, let's look now at the elements of the best-selling book. Let me see. I see some chat things. What can we expect to pay for editing? So I know everybody's like showing love to everybody else. That's so cool. And then what can we expect to pay for editing? Andrea charges, I think, unless she changed her prices, Chica could probably tell you. I think Chica talked to her most recently. I think it's around $5 per 450 words. Is that right, Chica?
Sorry, say that again.
Andrea's fees for editing.
I have no idea. I don't know who Andrea is. I've never used her.
Okay, who am I thinking of then?
Regina. You're thinking of Regina Diane?
No, I'm thinking of somebody asked me for a referral to an editor.
No, it wasn't me. No.
Okay, so I have that mixed up. But Michael is saying, yes, that's correct. Okay. Joy. It might have been Joy. Anyways, doesn't matter who it was. Let's look at the elements of your book. So you have the title page, which these little asterisks are optional items. The title page is, and I'll show you in mine. Oh, well, this goes to show how optional it is. My title page is just like this. So it's just got the title and the subtitle on the inside, and you don't really have to have it. The copyright is also optional. So my copyright is actually a little bit longer because I have the standard copyright part, which I do give a sample, don't worry about that. But I also put in more because, like, there's this client, like, they're trying to get clients off of reading this book. So I also have, you know, no part of this book is meant to be taken as a guarantee of success of income. There's no guarantee you'll make any money after reading this book. We've made every effort to accurately represent the topics. So I added that thing. And for example, with Sarah, if she's going to talk about depression, she might want to put a disclaimer in her book. I'm not a licensed medical physician, doctor, whatever, however it goes. You know, nothing in this book is meant to be a diagnosis or, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then usually it says something to the effect of, this is my journey. I'm just sharing my journey. And please make sure that you consult a physician for any type of, you know, getting off drugs, getting on drugs, you know, any types of things like that, which I had to put in some of my health books as well. So that's what I also put into my copyright page, so that people understand that this is my experience. It's not my recommendation because I don't know you. Okay. Technically, the copyright is not something you have to have in there, because anytime you write words, they're automatically copywritten for you. But the copyright page shares with people that you know what your rights are and that they need to contact you if any part of your book is going to be reproduced. It has to be under your terms, okay? And then the table of contents, which should be done as a interactive table of contents, which we talked about last time. Forward, preface, acknowledgement, introduction, chapters, conclusion, and about the author. The conclusion is one of the ones that people tend to want to skip because they feel like it might be salesy. But it's important to let people know that they can reach out to you and get more information, okay? So let's go through each of the, this is where the, what do you call it? The sample, the sample of the copyright that I use is at, okay? And you would put your ISBN and, you know, that kind of thing. And we'll talk about the ISBNs a little bit later as well. Okay. The forward is an endorsement by generally some well-known expert in your field. You don't have to have it. If you don't have one, it's okay. You can also add in testimonials from people. I do tend to put that on the backs of mine sometimes, not this one. I have a different one. Hold on. Yeah, this is actually my book that I have that I'm actually on the front cover, but on the back cover there are 2 testimonials that I put as part of the description. And they weren't from anybody who was terribly huge, but any third-party endorsement is great, even if nobody's heard of them. Okay. Preface. This is where you would put your why story, why you wrote the story or wrote this book. Tell the reader who you are, what your struggle was, how you overcame it. And these components here, I'm not going to go over in a lot of detail. This is part of the story course. So if you did not go through the story course yet, make sure you do that. Okay, and then the acknowledgments is where you thank people, give them dedications. You can have a separate dedication if you want as well. The introduction tells people how to use your book best. Now, here's the thing about the preface and the introduction. A lot of people skip those things. They don't read it. So if you do repeat yourself again inside your book with things that are in the preface and introduction, it's okay. So the introduction tells people how to use your book. So, you could describe the book, the purpose of the book, the reasons for writing, how you got the idea, who influenced you, some of those things, why the subject is important to you, what's your inspiration, advice on how to read the book. Now, this is part that I generally do put in, the advice on how to read, because we'll put a summary. Maybe you have a workbook that you want to put in there. So I would advise them, to get the most out of this book, make sure you download the supplemental information that's in it so that you'll get the complete package, complete journey, get as deep of an experience as you need. That's also a way that encourages them to give you their email address if they're buying this book off of Amazon. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, about sales on Amazon versus sales off of your website. All right. And then maybe some of your experiences during the book writing process. I think a lot of people enjoy the behind the scenes sometimes. So this could be cool just as a relational connection type of thing. And then the chapters. So start with the juiciest chapter first. And you may not know what that chapter is until you finish all of them. And it's okay to rearrange your chapters unless for some reason you have a step-by-step process that has to go in a particular order. Then you want to do that over starting with the juiciest chapter, right? It keeps readers continuing to read because, as we know, we pick up books and then we get as far as we do, and then we set them down, and sometimes we never come back to it. So you want to start with the juiciest chapter so that they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much more that I need to keep reading. If I put this down, I'm going to pick it up again tomorrow, right? And the only way to have that happen is start with the juiciest chapter. And one of the things too is to leave a little bit of like a cliffhanger at the end of your chapters so that they are wanting to read the next chapter as well, right? So you might want to brainstorm a list of everything you want to put in your book. So you start with that, like, what is it that you want the reader to walk away with, that first big, huge umbrella. And then you chunk those down into 10 chapters. Maybe you have 5, but I wouldn't have less than 5. And then take 3 to 5 points, key points that you want them to have in each of the chapters. So now you've chunked it all the way down. You've got the big picture, then you have the 10 chapters, and then inside those 10 chapters, 3 to 5 takeaways. And those 3 to 5 takeaways are going to be the same things that you're going to put in the summary at the end of your chapter. Okay? This is some of the seating stuff. This is good where, you know, you're showing your mistakes, your client's mistakes, things like that, right? And I think we talked about this briefly, but I want to make sure you hear this, is that when you share your particular story and your journey, that's where they get the most connection with you. When you share a client story, they get credibility of you. When you share a famous person's story, they get an illustration of your point. So picking the right stories and picking where it might be good to share something else, you're going to want to figure out, do I want more connection with my reader right now? Do I need credibility with my reader now? Or do I just need an illustration of a point? Okay. And I prefer to have most of them be stories of you, quite honestly. Like they should be stories of you. And then you can link to live videos or extra downloads or PDFs or templates and stuff like that, so that you can start collecting the emails. And we'll get into that as well. So don't worry about that too. So the way that I structure my chapters is right here. I start with a quote, and then I make my points, you know, my 5 points, whatever. I put in a main story, and I summarize those points. So at the beginning of these 5 points, I give a bigger overview story. And then I make the 5 points. And within those 5 points, there might be like little shorter stories that go in there. And then I summarize those points at the end. And I also give them a call to action, like my workbook thing, you know, it says, okay, now grab your workbook and answer the questions in there. It's not something totally intrusive or anything. You can also send them, I've sent my people to like an article that I've had online. I've also sent them to YouTube videos, things like that, so they can just get a bigger experience, because these days books are not just the book. We're giving them an experience. Just like when you go to an event or you're in a course, part of the reason you guys are in a community, in a group program here, is there's an experience to be had in Easy Writer. And you want to give them an experience in your book too. Okay, and then the conclusion summary. So this is a great way to share your program. It's kind of like a long sales page, and you're going to give them calls to action and let them know that they can hire you. So you remind them where they are, help them feel the pain of that. You re-illustrate how you've been there too. You remind them that you figured it out. You give them hope that they can get where you are. Share testimonials or case studies. Share your solution, their next steps, how they want to deeper their experience, whatever. Then tell them it will help you to blank. Give them a call to action. If they don't take this action, life's going to go back to blah, blah, blah. Imagine if, you know, you give them the vision, because again, people are more apt to continue with that emotion. And then the call to action, right? Because they buy based on emotion. They rationalize and confirm their decision with logic. Okay. And then the about the author at the very end, you write it in third person. It doesn't have to be very long. Give your background, your credentials, share something personal and fun about yourself. Just a little blurb, something that you would probably put like at the end of like an article or an intro to a podcast if they are introducing you. Okay. Guys have any questions on that so far? I don't see anything in chat. So, let's go through a sample schedule for writing your bestseller in 60 days. So just so you guys all know, when I ran this live last time, everybody finished in 60 days and launched their bestseller by day 90, because my incentive was by day 90, I would write the press release. I gave you guys 6 months, but the first time around, they all wrote their books in about 60 days, launched them, and they were done by day 90. So day 1, which some of this you guys have already done with the prep module and stuff, so you might be at, you know, day 10 or something like that, right? Getting organized, brainstorming your ideas, figuring out the purpose, figuring out who your ideal client is. I tell people to draw a picture of your ideal client reader. so that when you're writing to one person. They want to feel like it's one person, right? Just like when you're doing a live video or you're on stage, even though there's a lot of people, you don't want to address them as, hey, everybody, hey, and that's one of my big mistakes that I do. It's just a knee-jerk reaction when I get on live that I'm trying to change now, that I'm not like, hey, guys, because I want everybody to feel like I am seeing them as an individual, right? So draw a picture of them. Or you could put up a picture of a past client that has been ideal, or somebody that you think, like, if you had written this book for, they would really love. Put a picture of them on your wall. It may help you when you're trying to have that conversation or trying to get some words out that you're actually talking to somebody. Okay. We talked about the unique angle, where you like to work, and all that stuff. So basically, when you get to days like 11 to 55, this is where we're talking about you want to write at least at a pace of 1.5 pages per day for 45 days. That gets you the minimum number of pages that you want. A lot of people would prefer a book that's like 120 or 180 pages or so. So this pace here, you just need to multiply that out. So you might need to work at a pace of 3 pages per day, which is still totally doable. When you think of a long blog post or an article that you might write for a magazine is about 1.5 pages, right? Or if you want to think of it in terms of how you've broken down, your main topic into the 10 chapters into the 3 to 5 sub points, then you can write 1 sub point or 2 sub points each day, and you will get to these pages. Chica, yeah.
Yeah, Vickie, just to clarify, when you're saying 3 pages, 1.5 to 3 pages per day, is that for the Amazon Kindle template, or are these A4 pages?
A4 pages.
Right.
So it's an 8 by 10 page that I'm talking about, a normal one that we type in. Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
Yep. Or you can do it by word count, 750 words for 1.5 pages. Yep. Okay, so this was the structure again, with the quote, the story, the summaries, the call to actions, right? Here's a special note that I want to make sure you guys see, that during the time while you're writing your book, you want to start talking about it on social media. So announce to people that you have this book that you're in the process of, because think of it as every day you talk about it, you're gathering names. You're gathering people who are going to support and buy your book. So if you only give yourself 3 days prior to your launch, you only have 3 days to collect the names, right? It's kind of like when I have a, let's say, 3-day challenge or a masterclass that I'm doing. There's a difference between the number of people that I get to sign up for that masterclass or 3-day challenge when I do a 7-day promo for it, a 10-day promo for it, and a 14-day promo for it. I get more people at 14 days. Because I gave them enough time. So think of it as, I need to be creating awareness. You're creating brand awareness for your book. You're creating a buzz for it, and you're collecting followers. You're growing your following while you're writing it. And the topics that you're writing about in your book should be aligned to your business, should then be aligned to your message. So all of that should be in alignment, so that while you're writing your book, and this is where a lot of people think, I need to set aside my business to write my book. When you're sharing about your book, don't be surprised if people say to you, oh, wait a minute, do you coach on that? Do you have a program on that? Do you have something that you do with people that is that same topic of your book? Because that's where I need help. So just because you're writing your book doesn't mean you're setting aside getting clients for the season of 3 months or 6 months or whatever. The things that you're putting out on social media that are about your book should be doing double duty. And the double duty is asking, what is it? You can ask these things like, what is it that you would love to see in a book like this? If you are somebody who's interested in blah, blah, blah. And that's the thing, always qualify or you're going to get junk. So I have a friend who I love her to pieces. She's not in business at all, but she loves to comment on my stuff. Even if I say, if you are a mom who's in business, who has toddlers under the age of 3, would you be willing to share, or no, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, like I qualify this question and she answers no matter what. No matter what, she always answers like, okay, this is not you. Why are you answering? But I know her well enough, and she's got a good heart. She's trying to help me out. She really wants me to know what her opinion is, which is fine, right? But all that to say, qualify your people so that when you're asking something or you're surveying people, you could even do a survey about your book. This is the topic. What would you love to see in it? When you're doing that, make sure they're qualified people, or you're going to get these extraneous answers that don't mean anything, right? It's kind of like the law of large numbers. Like, you know, you have to have the right people to get the information that you want, or else you'll end up with, you know, junk data. So ask questions, let them know about it. And then what I do is I end up saving those posts. You guys know how, you know, you click the ... on Facebook and you can save that post. You guys all know that? Is that a yes? I can't see everybody. I'm gonna guess that. Nod your head. Some people aren't on camera, so I don't know. And if it's not you, then type it in the chat. But I save all the posts that I write about my book, so that when I'm creating that marketing posse and putting together people who are going to support me, I can logically tag them. And I will say this in the post too. You know, sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to send out reminders about it. And if you just like, or if you comment below, I'll tag you when it's ready, so that you don't feel like you're spamming people. When you tell them you're going to do something, or you get permission to do it from them, they don't feel like, oh my gosh, she's tagging me again. Oh my gosh, she's tagging me again. And I'm saying tagging from when you are actually launching and you have the link and everything and you're selling the book, not like tag them every time you write something, a post about your book. But I save all those posts and I write down their names so that I know who are my great cheerleaders and who's going to be willing to share my stuff. All right. Okay, so by day 56, because we've done this whole thing, you'll probably be sending your book to the editor for grammar and spelling and feedback and things like that. If you decide to use a friend or family member to edit your book, be very specific. It's not generally something that I recommend, however, people do it. So if you're going to do it, make sure it's somebody who is willing to love you enough to hurt your feelings. I have a friend who wrote a book. He wanted John Maxwell team to write the foreword. Now, this was years before I ever knew him. His book's been out for, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, maybe longer. So he asked John Maxwell if he would write a recommendation for this book, and John Maxwell said no. Reason being, the book wasn't good. However, he put the book out anyway, and everybody told him how much he loved it, because, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, could you imagine telling a soft, gentle, kind-hearted soul that their book sucked? Right? And all of you have friends that are like, we love you so much. Everything you do is so wonderful. We love you. You need to find somebody who loves you enough to hurt your feelings. So when he asked me to read his book, and I said I would read the first 3 chapters, I gave him feedback he didn't want to hear. And I said, this book needs to be rewritten. And he said, no, he wasn't going to rewrite it, because he had 1,000 copies in his garage, because he bought 1,000 copies, which is okay. Everything is okay. But point being is, however, 20, 30, 40 people who had bought his book gave him feedback to not hurt his feelings. So now he's running off with his book thinking that it makes sense. It's to the point, it's helpful, you know, and all the stuff that he wanted the book to be. And sadly, it's not. So find people who are willing to hurt your feelings, or pay somebody to hurt your feelings. That sounds kind of funny. Okay. So once you get to that point, day 57, you'll be reaching out directly to ask friends and family for support on the book launch and all that stuff. You know, you're going to write out your description for your book for when you upload it to Kindle. The description of the book, a lot of times I take out of the preface and the introduction. You can take pieces out of that, but make sure when you're doing this, remember it's benefits, benefits, benefits. It's not about, I really love this subject, I am an expert in blah, blah, blah. It's not about you. It's never about you. When you're talking to somebody about buying something, it's never about you. It's about what's in it for them? What are they going to get out of it? And that's what your description has to be chocked full of. Okay. Day 59, putting on finishing touches, approving edits, confirming your cover and all that stuff. And then day 60, we will upload it to Kindle. Oh, so you can take the sample and modify it as you like. I know some people are going for a 4-month or a 6-month mark or stuff like that. And yes, definitely you want to be done and launched at least by the 6-month mark if you want to be included in the press release that we're putting out. There are no exceptions. It's just going to go out, you know. And last note, many authors create author central pages, and they're optional, but I highly recommend it so that people have one place to see all your books, and they can it provides a bio, it has video links, you can do an RSS feed for your blog, for anything. And that author central page, there's somebody that I know, their author central page sends people to his podcast, which gets him more views on his podcast, more listeners on his podcast, and more subscribers. So make sure that you do have your author central page. The thing is, you cannot do your author central page until your book is uploaded. So don't look to do your author page before your book is, confirmed. Okay. And I think sometimes we forget about that because we're just like, oh, I'm doing the bestseller launch. But make sure the author central page is there. Okay. All right. I think we kind of talked about this already, about how we need to, you know, be a community for each other. I know you guys are all like that anyway. Put in there, you know, it's my goal this week to do this, or, you know, I was able to do that. And remember, like, promise me, you guys, that it's like not comparison city. It's not time to go, oh, she got 3 chapters of her book done, I'm still on the prep module, right? Because we all do everything at our own pace, depending on what's going on in our lives, and whatever that is okay. So don't make yourself wrong for anything, okay? Let's see, we already did that. So you can calculate these. What I did here was a different way of splitting out when you want to be done. So 25%, 50, 75, 100%. So you can do it this way, as well as if you don't want it to be like a day-by-day thing like I did. All right. And then beyond your book, keep in mind that the book is your tool, that getting to bestseller is part of the journey with your book, but really what you're looking for is to use that book as a tool. You know, I've mentioned before that a tool is like a hammer, right? So a hammer, if you're looking to build a desk, if you set the hammer next to the wood and the nails, it's not going to do anything. It's still going to be this pile of wood and nails because you didn't use the tool to build it. It's the same with your book. Your book is a tool. So if you don't pick up your book and use it for something, it's not going to do anything for your business. It's going to sit on the shelf and collect dust. So as you're writing it, think of, where can I use this? How can I use this? How do I want this? Like, what's the vision of where I see this fitting in to my business? Am I going to be okay with using the bestseller title in my bio, in my email signature? And if not, what is it inside me that I need to work on for me to feel like I deserve that, I'm worthy enough? Because like you already are, you guys, right? Like, what is it that I need to do to step up to that level of visibility with my book, that I'm not scared that my book may not be enough, that I'm going to be judged, or, you know, whatever. Because here's the thing, we're all going to get judged. Everybody's judging us every single day, and you're going to get judgment about your book. But it shouldn't keep you from using it as a tool. Yeah? Okay, Chica, you had your hand up for a second. So I hope you remember what that was.
No, you probably got that confused because I was telling off my 4-year-old.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's fine now.
Okay, so you're all right. Let's see. Phil says, what are your thoughts on having more than one editor? I don't really think that it is necessary to have more than one editor unless you're doing the friend thing. Okay, so if you're going to pay a professional editor, I don't think it's necessary to have more than one. Okay. All right, so let's get into really quick. Chica, you have a podcast coming up, right?
Yeah, I've got a BBC radio interview. Well, it's not really an interview. It's I've just been invited onto the show. Just talk a little bit about what I do, but mainly it's really just to have a bit of a laugh about stories that have been just funny stories that have made the headlines. But I'll be given opportunities to speak about what I do. Yeah. So yeah, it is, but it's live for the BBC.
Awesome. So at the end of that interview or at the beginning, either one, are they going to have some sort of intro bio for you?
Yes.
Okay. So I would suggest, and even if you don't have the title of your book, like I don't know if you do or not, but even if you don't have the title of the book, okay, forthcoming author of. So put that in your bio that you're the author of the forthcoming book on blank, whatever it is. Are they going to allow you to give them like website something like, are they going to allow, okay. So I don't know if you have a freebie yet or not. But if not, okay. I would try to figure out something that I could gather some emails for, something that's applicable to that. And it doesn't have to be anything new. It could be another past interview, because obviously people who are on that listening like to listen to stuff, right? So maybe you have another past interview that is somewhat related that you could give them access to.
I had only at the beginning of January, the same BBC interviewed me, but it was specifically 15 minutes on what I do. So I do have that saved on a SoundCloud.
Okay. So
the only thing about that is that I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what to expect. So I went completely just virgin, and I just did the best. I didn't know what to expect. I know what to expect now.
Yeah, so maybe that's not the best one. You could probably come up with something really quick, like a worksheet or a template or something that they could opt in for. And then when they opt in for that, they'll also, and just so let them know, just so you know, when you, because people get mad when they have surprises, right? Just so you know, when you opt in for that template, when my book releases, I'll also let you know that date and title. Because every time you get on a podcast or every time you get some sort of feature, you want to talk about your book and have a way to capture emails. So that just makes it so much easier the day you launch that you're just getting hundreds of sales. Right? Okay. And then everybody else, can use that tip as well for the things that they're doing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Jay Diamond.
Oh, hello.
Hello. We can't see your beautiful face.
Hold on a moment.
Oh, there you are. Hello. All right. Does everybody know who you are? I don't think so. So introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jay Diamond. I'm a love and intimacy coach. So I help stuck singles find their soulmates and also struggling couples get juicy and reconnected again. And my superpower is helping abuse survivors. It's great work.
Awesome. And Jay had a question about doing summits and book tours that I thought would be great for all of you. And this is another one of those things where this is a optional right now, and don't feel overwhelmed. And maybe this is you take notes and talk it in someplace else. Jay wrote her book in July. Her Abuse to Abundance book went bestseller in July internationally. Yay! Okay, so you had a couple questions. One was about book tour, one was about summit.
Yes.
So let's attack book tour first.
Okay. So
what was your question on book tour? Is it how to?
I think some of it's a how to. I feel like I'm just going to make some notes. I don't know if I'm tapping too loudly. I feel like I'm getting it kind of underway. I think we've got so much going on at the moment that I just really want to keep it simple. So I'm definitely going to do one in London, one in Manchester, because that's my hometown. Brighton is quite close, quite a cool city, and then Liverpool, because I have lots of people in Liverpool as well. So I've got like 4 cities that I want to do it in. And I guess I'm wondering like the best practices, how to make it successful, how to reach the right people. I think with the work that I'm doing, I want to give some free tickets to charities that support survivors, charities that support women fleeing domestic violence, for sure. And then the other tickets, you know, I'll just sell at kind of a cheap-ish rate just to get bums on seats, take photographs, and then kind of sell books.
So you're tying it in with an event.
Well, it is an event in itself, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And that was one of the things that I wanted to tell people, that, you know, book tours in and of itself is not something that I'm like a huge fan of, because the bookstores that you go to or the locations that you're going to are looking for you to bring your guests. And I don't know enough people in Atlanta and Washington, D.C. and New York City and Houston, Texas, and, you know, Las Vegas and San Francisco to make a tour all of my own, because I'm not big deal famous like Oprah, where, you know, I'm just going to show up and there's going to be a mob, or like Michelle Obama, because she was in Detroit the same day I was down there for something else, and I didn't realize she was down there. There's no parking. I'm like, what? There's no parking. And, you know, it was freezing and I had to walk. It was a whole different story. But we aren't those people, right? We don't have, yes, we have an audience, but we don't have an audience in every city. So I like to find speaking gigs in different locations where I can double dip, that I'm coming for something that's going to generate money for me, and then I can go and get a table at the back. They usually throw those in, right? I'll get a book signing at the back where people can come. And then I can also check around at other bookstores, and you can leverage that speaking gig then. I'm coming for such and such, and I'm an author and blah, blah, blah. So now I want to get into your bookstore because I'm in the area, right? The thing is, they're still expecting you to draw some people. So hopefully you'll be at a place that you might know some friends. And that's another thing, is a lot of time book tours end up being your friends and not necessarily being your clients.
Yeah, right.
Right. It's your supporters, and there's a difference, right? There's the community that supports you, that loves what you do and will come out. But then there's like your ideal client, because there's some people in your community who just want to be around you, love your space, but they're never going to buy from you.
True.
And then there's the people who are your actual ideal clients, which is a smaller subset of that bigger community, who you're really talking to and who you really want to show up to these things. And a lot of times it's based on how many friends do you have in that area. So they're not necessarily as profitable as maybe they could have been, because a lot of times we can grow our following by showcasing our book on social media just as well. And it's cheaper than getting a hotel and a plane flight and whatever, although saying I went on a book tour is sexy. It sounds great, you know, and it's fun. I'm not going to say it's not fun. But I would attach it to gigs that you could get, which, but you know, that's something that you want to do anyway, which may just like put a fire under your butt to apply to more speaking gigs. So that you can attach the book tour to the speaking gigs.
I think you spot on, sweetheart.
Yeah.
You know, I got nominated for this award in Miami, for this Best Dating Coach Award in Miami, and that's exactly the reason that I didn't choose to go. I was looking for other speaking gigs. I couldn't really find anything. It's easily going to cost me $1,000 to get there with hotel. And I thought, yeah, great. It's going to look great on social media. It's going to look great on Facebook. But is it actually going to give me any clients? Probably not.
Exactly.
Probably not. And so I made a decision not to go, and to kind of try and focus better this year, business-wise, you know.
And a lot of times when I think of things, I think of it in terms of ad cost. So if I go to an event, how much does it cost me to get to that event? how many people am I going to get as a client? And if I had run an ad, what other benefit might I have gotten from it? So $1,000 in ad cost, if each person cost $2 to get in, you would have 500 people extra on your email list. That out of that 500 people, 1% is going to convert. You're going to get 5 extra clients. Would that $1,000 be better off spent on a Facebook ad?
That is such good advice. That's such good advice.
Thank you.
Because that's the reality, isn't it, of where it's best placed. Because if I'm still, you know, coming from a place of service, let's say, and not just trying to look good, then it's about bringing people in, isn't it? How many people can I get on my list? Because my list does need to grow. So it might be better that, you know, the cities that I'm thinking about are places where I do have people, and you know, I know for sure a lot of the people that are going to come out is exactly like you said. It's people who want to support me, but they're not necessarily my clients. So it might even be better just doing it like London and Manchester, or London, Manchester, Liverpool max. And then just spending the other money that I would have spent on hotels or train fare on adverts instead.
Right. And there's nothing bad about, you know, growing brand awareness by doing things like that, where people see that, oh, wow, she really is an expert, because that does help as well. But like you said, I think you can do it in town. People think that I speak a lot, and I do speak a lot. But guess what? Most of it's in town.
Yeah, but it's other people's speaking gigs where you can reach new audiences, right?
Right. So I'm not spending a lot of money with my speaking gigs. I have 5 of them. They're all in town.
Brilliant.
So I keep my costs down, but I'm still growing my audience, and people still have that awareness of, look, Vickie's on stage again. Oh, Vickie's doing a book signing again. Or Vickie's, you know, whatever, which I think accomplishes the same thing. I don't need to be in Miami.
Yeah.
Although I would love to be in Miami right now.
I was like, I'd love to be in Miami. That would be wonderful. It's freezing here, but like, do I really want? Like, is that the best use of £1,000 for me? And no, it's not. It's not.
Michael said that he turned a meeting in the South to a mini book tour in South Carolina and Atlanta. So he piggybacked. That's super smart.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Summits. So we're talking about telesummits. Does everybody know what a telesummit is? Yes? I'm going to assume yes, unless somebody types it in the chat. Okay. So where do you need help with the telesummit?
Well,
like that face.
I've never done one before. So obviously media is my background. Being in radio and video is easy peasy for me. Like all the interviewing side, the people side is easy peasy. The tech side, like what do I need? Who do I get to handle that? What format do I use? Do I pre-record? Do I do some live? Or that kind of stuff. That's
okay. So I'll tell you how I've done mine. And I've done 2 that I hosted.
Okay.
Nick said no. So Nick, a telesummit is like a speaking event that's all online. You have guests, you interview, and it's based on a certain topic. So you might have I don't know, there might be a computer science telesummit somewhere where you get guest experts to come in, and the collaboration is a cross promotion that helps grow your list and your brand awareness. And then everybody benefits in it. Hopefully that sort of makes sense.
Sure.
If somebody has a better description, if you want to type it in for Nick, that would be cool. All right. So Jay, first of all, let's start at the beginning. Who are you going to ask on the telesummit? So what I've noticed is the big names might have reach, but not have time in the promotional calendar. So I did a telesummit with lots of newbies and got more on my list than the people who were big. So I would look for people who are rising stars, who are eager and may not be asked to be on telesummits all the time. Because then they're like, oh my gosh, even if their lists are not huge, it may still be worth it. So you'll have to evaluate that. Some people have qualifications of you have to have 2,000 on your list or 5,000 on your list. And sometimes it's not about that. It's about how engaged their list is, how excited they are about your thing, because they're on social media too. It's not just their list. So those are the people that I would ask. Make sure they're aligned with your business. I'm sure you know that. And then what I did was pre-recorded interviews.
Okay.
I think live is difficult because, number one, people don't watch the live anyway. And then it's disappointing to see that two people are there with your interviewee. And so just do it. Yeah. Do it at a convenient time for both, and have it pre-recorded.
Okay.
That's what I would do. I would make them a little shorter. Like it used to be, you would have like these hour-long interviews with everybody. And I think the tolerance of the length has gotten shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 minutes maybe.
Okay.
And then as people are opting in for it, I would give them an upsell. So what I did was I upsold them to get the recordings. If they wanted to get all the recordings prior to the actual telesummit, it was $27. Now you can change your numbers to whatever, but I offered it for $27. And it was like,
when people signed up, it was an immediate upsell.
Yep.
Okay.
It was on the thank you page.
Okay.
And then later on, as it got closer, the people who didn't opt in for that, like a week prior, hey, you can still, because that was a one-time special, right? That thank you page is a one-time special. You can still get in to get the recordings for $47 before the event actually happens. After the event, it's going to be $97. So I upsold them at that point. Most people who bought at the thank you page.
So how long did you keep the live classes up for?
I kept it up for longer than I promised, only because I had people from Australia. One of my experts was from Australia, and they were only supposed to be up for 24 hours, but they're 24 hours. So it ended up being up for, I think, 3 days, even though I said it was going to be up for 1. So you could give some sort of length there. 2 days. It's going to be up for 2 days. I think that would capture everybody around the world if it was 2 days.
So would it be, so you do one class, it goes up on that day, let's say, and then it's up for 24 hours, and you bring it down the next.
I left them up until the whole thing was over. However, I didn't have mine set up that way. Mine was a 1-day attractathon. So it was 6 hours straight of, it was 6.5 hours straight of interviews that I dropped. Okay. So if you're going to do it that way, I would say wait until the very end, all of them are done, and then say, okay, now you have 48 hours to rewatch anything that you want after the week is up, or however long it's going to be. Okay, and what do you do in terms of email addresses, and how does that get shared? What's the... So email addresses, they get really ticked off if you send the email addresses to every single person who is participating in it. And if you do decide to do that, you have to have a huge disclaimer on the email opt-in page saying you understand that by signing up, you're giving your email address to every expert on the panel.
Right.
So when I did it the first time, I did it that way.
Okay.
And it worked out all right, but I know people get upset. The second time I did it, the email addresses came only to me as the host.
Okay.
And then each person had a freebie they could give. And if somebody was interested in that freebie, then they got people on their list that way.
That's probably the best way,
Yeah. So when you participate in a summit, you don't get as many emails as the summit host.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that was the flow. And then I upsold them into, that particular one was upselling them into my live event. So you want to know what product or package you want after they get all their reminders and stuff about your summit. You might give them a few days of a break or something. You could send them a survey, just nurture them a little bit, give them some more content, but not a lot of dripped content. And then I would go towards, upselling them to something.
Okay.
So I think that's pretty much how the flow went. I did give an offer afterwards, the $97 offer after the summit was done. If you really enjoyed this and you want to have access to them all the time, then go here.
So in terms of like what you've seen other people doing as well, do you think it might be good to just do over one day or over a weekend or like?
I don't know. Guys, what do you think? Tell Jay, when you're in telesummits and you're watching and you've signed up for telesummits, how long do you like them? I tend to like them shorter. That's because a lot of people just, I don't know, they drop out by day 5, you know? It just seems like they do. Okay, so next, are you good with that? You want to talk about tech?
You.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Sarah says weekend sounds great, so she can watch at her pace in her free time. Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, so tech, it can be very simple. You know, I'm all about simple. No subscription plans, no paying for extra stuff. That's me, right? So I take interviews on Zoom. I just record the Zoom interview.
Great.
I upload the Zoom interview to YouTube, listed as unlisted.
Yeah.
I create a page on my website that they're the only ones who know the link, and I tell them as well, this is your private link. Please do not share with people who are not registered. If they do want to register, go here. Like, share the registration page. Don't share the link page. Whether they do or not, you know, whatever. So then what I did for this particular one, it just, oh my gosh, doing it live turned into a disaster, and it didn't work, and my OBS and blah, blah, blah. It didn't even matter because people weren't live. So what I did was I took those YouTube videos on that page and I just dropped them. So you might have one web page for day 1.
Yeah.
And so you have three experts on day 1, whatever it is, right? So day 1, you send them the email that says, hey, here's day 1. Go here to watch. And then underneath each person was their little bio and their freebie. I don't think I had links to their websites because I wanted them to, you know, you give them more than one option, people don't know what to do. So just the freebie link. So I titled their talk, shared like some of the benefits of the talk, and then the freebie link.
Beautiful.
Day 2, here's a link to day 2. Now,
So
after the whole entire...
3 of they're already set done. You can go and watch them at their own pace.
Yep.
Okay.
So you get done with everything. You can have all those pages set, but you're just not giving them the names. Now, here's the thing. If you want to make sure that they aren't going to day 2 on a day that they shouldn't be going on day 2, make it a little different. So like my Attractathon, it was Vickie Gould / Attractathon day 1. The next day, I didn't really want to say day 2. People are going to figure out the pattern if they're smart and then get to the next day. If it matters to you. I mean, if it doesn't matter to you, like in some ways it's like, who cares if they get there or not, right? So however you want to do that. But after the whole entire thing was done, I took those pages down. And then I created a new page, which you can do beforehand anyway. I created a new page that gave them access to all of them. Whether you want to do it as a day 1 button, go here, day 2, go here, or if you want to just make one big long page that has all the days that they just keep scrolling down and you know, seeing the videos, whichever way you want to do that. But I don't release that link until I don't release that link until it's over. But once it's over, they get that link, the people who bought. And then, you know, I say as well, you know, because you purchased this, please make sure you keep this link to yourself, blah, 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 blah. It's specifically for you.
Okay.
So that's it. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yep.
Sounds good. So then they can just, and do you have like a sales page where it just says it's $97 if you want to purchase everything?
No, not really. I didn't have a sales page for that. I just sent them to the buy button. That's it. I didn't make a sales page for it. It was just go here to buy it. Because they had already seen the whole lineup. So you could say, if you need a reminder of who's there and what they're talking about, go here, which could be the opt-in page again, because if you're going to list everybody on the opt-in page, you can send them back to the opt-in page that shows everything, or you could make a page that doesn't have the opt-in page, or opt-in, I mean, and just say, here's a reminder of everything that you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to buy it, like, you could put that a button there and you can consider that the sales page, but I didn't do it that way. I just immediately sent them to PayPal me $27 or 47 or 97.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vickie.
Nick says he's participated in similar events that went for about 3 days, about 4 hours a day, and content was available in between for a few days afterwards, and it was also on a weekend.
Okay.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. I'm thinking like 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
4 hours.
Okay, cool. So does anybody else have any questions? Sarah does. Okay, Sarah.
I was working on it myself, but thank you. So I'm going to create an opt-in right now, just for like, I haven't picked out the wording for it, but basically like insider access. So every time that I post about my book, if you want to be reminded on the date it launches,
mm-hmm.
and if you want to participate in the creation process of the book, so that like I'll give them like sneak peeks to different parts of the book and stuff along the way, keep them interested.
Yeah.
So my question is, I don't really understand what's getting us to bestseller. Are we doing our book at 99 cents for just that first day?
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunity is, so that's kind of their thing, is join my list so that you don't miss out on the day to get it at 99 cents. Otherwise it's going to be
whatever you want it to be.
Whatever you want it to be. Okay. There was something else along the way, because.
So if somebody asks you, because we're going to launch the ebook first. The reason being is the ebook has a certain, I'll just call it a SKU. It's an ASIN or an ISBN. And the print book has a different one. And because they're two different ones, they are considered different books. So you have an ebook out and a print book out. You're giving them two options, and then all your sales are going to be scattered between two. So we're going to only launch the ebook. And then maybe if you want, like 3 days later, 5 days, a week later, whatever, you make the print book available. Some people will say to you, I'm not really into ebooks. I really want the print book, blah, blah, blah. So I usually say then, I understand. I'm like that too. I love having the hard copy, but my book is launching in ebook form. So if you're willing to support me for the 99 cents, I'm happy to give you a discount of that 99 cents when you buy the print book. Because I'd rather do that. Most of the time people don't come back to you. Like, even if you offer, they're going to be like, it doesn't matter. It was just 99 cents, no biggie. But if they did, obviously we give them their dollar. But get them to buy the ebook. It's an easy yes.
Okay. Are you going to show us at any point during the program how to make the book available on Audible?
No. We can talk about it.
Okay. That's how I like to consume my books. So I would like, one of my frustrations is when I go and find a book and it's not available on Audible, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, absolutely. Audible has, and we can talk about it real briefly right now, just so you know what's coming up and what you might need for it. Audible has certain parameters of how they want you to record it. If you're going to record it for yourself, you have to give them a sample so that you're up to par, and your equipment is good and whatever like that. So if you're going to do the Audible version, I would suggest a Yeti microphone. You can get Audacity, which is free. You just have to set what is it called? It's like the bips per, I don't even know the technical name, but it has to be at 1920, like the speed or whatever quality or whatever it is, size. I don't know what exactly it is, but Audible has all of those parameters. You just have to set them. And you record chapter by chapter, because they only want one chapter at a time, not the whole entire book. And then you have to have different cover art because it's square like a CD case rather than rectangular. So there's not a lot that you have to do for it, and it's fairly simple. But that's what you would need for it.
Okay. At the beginning of the call, you said we'd talk at the end and get it maybe a little clearer on what my topic's going to be.
Yep. So hold on a second. Let me make sure. Jay, you're all set, right? I can't hear you.
Oops, I've unmuted myself. Yep.
Okay, cool. Jay says apparently the royalties on Audible are awful. Okay, so here's the thing. Let me tell you what I do with my books, because they are available as MP3s. They're not available on Audible. So what I do is I record each of my chapters on Audacity and I create a zip file. And when somebody buys my ebook or my print book, they can get an upgrade for an additional like $7 or something to the recorded, the audio version, the audio book. And then what they do is they get a zip file to their computer or to their phone or whatever that they can listen to.
Okay.
That's what I do. But you don't.
I lost your sound.
Okay, yep, there I am. Press the wrong mute button. Okay, cool. So let's talk about your topic, and then anybody, if you guys have extra, apparently these calls are way longer than an hour, which is totally fine with me, but just so that you guys know for your schedule, I initially had told somebody, might have been you, Sarah, that to allot about an hour. So maybe we should be allotting about 2 hours, which is totally cool with me. So I want to make sure everybody's questions are answered in each of the calls. So if you guys have other things that you want to talk to after Sarah, if you can put it in the chat, then I'll know who else I need to get to after this. So Sarah, let's talk about your topic.
So, like as an umbrella, I guess, like the big part of it is I'm helping people who have disconnection is the word that I use often.
Okay.
So basically they've disconnected from who they are and from their spirit and that sort of stuff. And so they've been living their life for somebody else, you know, maybe their parents' expectations, whatever, that sort of stuff. And so all of the work that I help people do is like coming back to who they are, like tuning into themselves, really tuning into the energy available around them, understanding who they are, and then having the confidence to live that, right? Because it's like one thing to recognize who you are, but then you have to have the courage to go out and do it, right?
Yeah.
So that they can come into alignment and feel happy. I like to focus on doing it with female entrepreneurs because I like to see women who are working and creating money in a way that feels good to them and adds to their life, you know? Like one of the things that's driven me nuts for years is when people like plan for the retirement. Like know when their retirement date is, or this is what I'm going to do once I'm retired. And I'm like, my goal was always to be in a career where I didn't have to retire. Like it was just a choice and I want other people to experience that.
Yeah.
So does that help? So there's a few different ways that I help people with this. Probably the least amount of way is talking about moon cycles. The next most popular would be tuning into your menstrual cycles because that's really personalized. And then my favorite way is through human design. And all of it kind of has this overarching theme of developing your own intuition, right? I mean, that's how you tune into yourself is getting familiar with how you receive your intuitive guidance.
Yeah. So is there a cycle word that goes with human design?
A cycle word?
Yeah, because what you said was moon cycle, menstrual cycle, and then human design was not a cycle.
There's a certain part in the profile where you can tell if people are more naturally connected to the rhythms of nature.
She could just put in natural rhythm.
Natural rhythm.
Because I'm wondering if your book couldn't be about those three things. Like technically you could write one book per, and you could actually have a 3-book series. Or you could write one book that has each of those 3 topics. But
I
you want to
wondered about chunking the book into the seasons. You know, like spring. I mean, like I have that mastermind coming up, and I started it with the spring equinox for a reason. Because the seasons definitely align with the menstrual cycle. I don't know how much it would align with human design. Because the way that human design really teaches you how to come into connection with yourself, I guess, is first it kind of shows you who you are so that you get this confirmation of all the things you'd already been feeling. But I think the most important thing it teaches you is how you make your best decisions so that you learn. That's where the intuition part comes into it, I think.
Isn't part of human design, though, like your birthday and numerology and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's based in like astrology and some of those Eastern things.
So it does kind of fit with all those other things that you were saying.
Yeah.
In that way. I guess the bigger question is, what do you want them to walk away with when they're done reading your book? What's the most important thing?
I wrote that down somewhere, and it was something about like feeling empowered and confident being themselves. Like I want them to feel like they've been seen.
Okay.
Or I want them to have a sense of love and compassion for themselves and who they are instead of wanting to. So one of my goals with people when I work with them is not to show them what they need to change to or who they can become, but to recognize the gift that they already are. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference there. You see it?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily want to be like, you do this, this, and this, and you'll become this person. I want them
finding the gift that you already are.
Yeah.
Is that a good title? The gift that you already are? I don't know.
I'll write it down. We'll see what happens.
And then would that work as the umbrella for the whole book?
Yeah, I think so, because at least right now I can see how different things would tie in. And I think I'm most interested in talking about either the menstrual cycle or human design. And I think that both can be.
So when I talk to you and I say, I'm looking to find the gift that I already am, would you have a step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this, step 4 is that?
Not really. So normally what I would do, if you said that to me, like we were on a Facebook conversation, I would recommend that you do my first call where we just look at your human design together. And basically you tell me some of your challenges and I'd look at your chart and kind of relate the two to give you some support with it. And then I would invite you into working with me for 3 months at a time. Does that answer your question?
So instead of a step-by-step process, there is this is one way, this is another way, this is another way. We combine all those ways.
So I don't necessarily teach all the different ways to everyone. I would say that human design is the only thing I share with everyone. The other stuff are like tools that I like that I might sprinkle in here and there. It depends on the person and if I get the feeling that it's something that would benefit them to know.
So in your book, could you say, if your profile is this, then I would share these things. If your profile is that, then these are the tools I would share.
Yeah.
Because this is a book that obviously they don't have your one-on-one. On the other hand, you also don't want to give everything away. Because their biggest benefit is going to be working with you individually. So if the whole purpose is, let me help you find the gift that you already are, here are some of the methods, and then like this is the common method that everybody goes through, human design. So you share the human design part, right? Because you said everybody does that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you could say if your profile is, I don't know what the profile would be, but then we would go into these two things. If your profile is this, then we go to these two things. So then in your book, certain people wouldn't have certain parts.
Right.
They wouldn't read certain parts.
For example, maybe like if you have a defined heart, then you have access to willpower at all times. But if you don't, then you only have access to willpower when you're in the presence of somebody else who does. So that sort of thing, like how you would know if you didn't, and how like maybe not having consistent willpower would create a challenge in your life, but how it also supports you. And then the same for if you did have consistent. That sort of is what you're talking about? Okay.
What do you think of that?
I think I need to, I made some notes. I think I need to sit with it and let it just.
Okay. Was it helpful, or is there something else that's
Yeah, I think so, because I think I definitely have like the umbrella, like you said.
Okay.
To move forward.
Okay.
Maybe pick a date. Okay.
Okay. Well, let us know in the group, like what the next thing is and you know, where else we can support you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Mike says, I like the why, or maybe it's the way you explained your process using MP3 Audible. Please repeat. Had an intro and a chapter 1 done using another person, but I got a lot of feedback of them wanting to hear my voice, and I agree the royalties do not seem to be worth it going through Audible or self-publish Amazon. Yeah, Audible is part of Amazon. So I think it's easy for us to read our own books. If you use another person, I mean, I tend to like it when the author reads the book personally. So what I do is I use a program called Audacity, and I use a Yeti microphone, and I let it default to whatever that setting is in Audacity, which is not the right setting for Audible. Like, it's not the right setting. But I just let it default to that, and I record each chapter one by one, and then I take and zip the file up and make that zip file available to somebody who wants to buy my book. So I put it on my Amazon S3 cloud, and that's where they download my print book or my ebook as well, I mean. And if they upgrade to that, then they also get the email that says, and here's your audio file. And when they click on it, it automatically starts downloading the zip file. Is that all you need, Mike? Okay. All right, cool. All right. So I'm going to guess that that's all the questions, since there's nothing else in there. Make sure you're just, I encourage you to make sure you're still using the group. I know some of us tend to be a little more into that. Like, I post in groups that I'm in my programs all the time. And some people may not be as much, but this is really where you're going to get, I think, a lot of support and connections. Again, we're going to be buying each other's books. So let us get to know you so that we can be excited when your book comes out, so that we actually know what to say. So like Joy, if you and Sarah don't get to know each other, right? And then Sarah's putting out her book, then Joy, somebody in Joy's community sees Joy share out that Sarah has his book, and it's great. And they ask Joy, well, what's this book about? Who is Sarah? How do you know her? We want to be able to answer that. Joy wants to be able to say, you know what, Sarah was in a program that I was in. Maybe you're not talking that it's a book program. You know, Sarah's in a program that I'm in, and she loves her dog. She, you know, has young kids. She, like, I don't know, just stuff so that when somebody asks you, you can be excited for that person because you guys all know each other. Like, I know all of you and I'm excited about all your books, but I know you guys don't all know each other. So in the next couple of months, just make sure you're out there getting to know each other, because I think that's just a really important part of being in this group. And you guys have the benefit, a bigger benefit than Mike did. He did his all on his own. We didn't have live calls last year. I had Easy Writer set as evergreen last year. So he did everything on his own. And the people who were in the group, like, they were somewhat responsive, but they weren't all writing their books at the same time. You guys have the benefit of being in this journey together. So that's all I have to say about that. Okay? All right, cool. Then we are done. And I apologize that we run long, but we want to get all of the questions answered. I will get this up into the membership site as soon as I can, probably later today. And you can look for it there. These are not going to be in the Facebook group. Okay. All righty. Talk to you guys later then. Okay. Bye.